This semester is definitely winding down. We're kind of getting toward the end of our project here. Fortunately, your homework assignments ease up significantly here in the last few weeks, which should give you ample time then to work on your project too. So this week you'll end up having two assignments. I've got one due Wednesday, so I need to get this off. It's a very important assignment, but I don't think it should take you a lot of time to put together. Remember, when we talk about your company strategy, we're going to be talking, it's going to be something that takes up like one paragraph in your final paper, maybe a long paragraph, and that's fine. Just remember, the focus of this paper is going to be on the financials of the company that you're analyzing. So again, this adds some context. It allows us to see, what's this company do and why do they do it? Okay, so what I want you to do in this is tell me what your company's strategy is, and I tend to believe that strategies fall into these three categories. Okay, are there nuance differences? Yeah, there are, but for the most part, I shouldn't say for the most part, totally. Okay, all companies kind of fall into one of these strategies. Companies that try to stay in the middle, they tend to not do as well. Anyhow, so the first that I think is differentiation. What's a good example of a company maybe that does differentiation? If we're looking locally here, and something that's near and dear to most people's hearts, what would you say? Well, you might say Nalifka's Pizza. A lot of you probably aren't familiar with Nalifka's Pizzas. It's been voted as one of the better pizzas in, northeast or north central Montana. Okay, it's a family-run place. Guarantee you their pizzas are way more expensive than Domino's. Okay, but as a connoisseur, their pizzas are way better than Domino's too. Okay, better ingredients, better flavors, etc., etc. Eugene's in Glasgow Pizza, similar. They were voted as, I think, one of the websites I went to said they were the best pizza in the whole state of Montana. Okay, so again, better ingredients, better taste, better flavor. They're not the cheapest. Okay, they're definitely not the cheapest, right? Okay, so cost leader. Well, following that same. I'm going to go back to differentiation. Let's do it on a bigger scale because you guys are analyzing companies maybe that are a little bit bigger. How about Starbucks? Yeah, I guarantee you can find coffee shops, or you can go to McDonald's, right, and get a cup of coffee, and it's way less expensive than what you're going to find at Starbucks. What does Starbucks do? Well, they differentiate, right? They do it in a lot of ways, and that's kind of what's important to talk about in your analysis, right? Beautiful locations, right? They fix them up. You definitely have Wi-Fi. I mean, their locations are made so that you feel like you want to go in there and spend a little bit of time and take your Kindle or whatever and read a book, drink some coffee, maybe have a second cup, etc., etc., right? Their coffee's very high end. They make sure that they get the best ingredients, the best coffee beans. They roast it to perfection, again, etc., etc. Those are all things, and that's kind of the tactics, that I want you to discuss in this, okay? Cost leader, on the other hand, again, locally, although this is also a national company, Domino's is definitely a lot less expensive than the Nalifka's Pizzas, okay? You can get on the, and this is part of the reason it's less expensive, right? You can get on your phone and order your pizza, okay? So now all of a sudden Domino's doesn't really have to have somebody answering the phone because it's going to go right to the computer, the guy that's making the pizzas, okay? They don't have a sit down really. Yeah, there's a couple tables you could go sit and have a pizza down there, but that's not their forte, right? Okay, my guess is that their ingredients are mass purchased, right, and delivered. I mean, Domino's can buy, cheese in huge bulk and ship it to Havre, and the cheese, the crust, the everything. Okay, it's important at this point to remind you that strategies are not mutually exclusive. Does that mean that Domino's Pizza is horrible? No. Domino's takes a lot of steps to try to make their pizzas taste good, and they're fine. There's nothing wrong with the Domino's pizza, right? Okay, so they do things to try to differentiate. They come up with different ideas. You know, their parm bites are different than other places, right? Their garlic infused crust, you know, those types of things are certainly different. So, and you go back to, you know, does Starbucks do things to try to cut costs? Surely they do. Okay, so they're not mutually exclusive, but one is their dominant, right? One is their dominant competitive strategy, and that's what we're looking for here. If you have some problems with that, send me an email. You know, let's discuss it. Send an email to your classmates, okay, or get a hold of them, talk to them. You know, ask other people, what do you think? Is there a strategy? If you had these choices, right? Okay. Niche differentiator is going to be a company that just fills a particular niche, and what might that be? Yeah, you know, I've had some people do defense contractors in the past, possibly. Okay. You know, Tesla, you sure could have said that when it first started, and that happens with companies. They'll move from one strategy to another, right? When Tesla first started, there was very few people that wanted to buy a electric-only vehicle, okay? So they were a niche. You know, they've kind of moved away from being a niche, but they're still certainly a differentiator. I think a couple of you chose Tesla, so I kind of gave away the ghost there, right? Okay. You know, there's you know, Solar City. I think they do the they'll put solar panels on your house and you lease it from them, but they tell you that the lease is going to be less than what you save in your electric bill, something like that. Okay, and so there are you know, some niches like that there are companies that fill. A company that has a product that's just extremely unique would be a niche differentiator. You know, if you're doing a clothing company, it's pretty hard to say that it's going to be niche differentiator, right? But what's Nike, right? Is Nike a differentiator? Sure they are. You know, they're not selling you the cheapest tennis shoe. You can go out to Walmart and buy a cheap tennis shoe, right? Okay, they're differentiating. How do they differentiate? Part of it is they sign up athletes to endorse it. You know, they spend a lot of money on research and development, etc. Okay, so talk about it and then break it down, and I kind of got started, but you guys should be able to find some more information about the tactics. What do they do? Again, it's not mutually exclusive, meaning that just because, you know, if you chose Costco, and just because Costco is definitely a cost leader, that doesn't mean you can't talk about some of the things that they do to also differentiate their, you know, their product or service, right? Or their strategy, right? And so feel free to do that, expand on that, okay? However you want to do that, however you want to set that up in your outline, that's fine. But spend a little time on this, okay? Think it through, you know, do some research for sure. Send in a decent part of your or a decent outline for this portion. Later in the week, you're going to have your full outline due. So that should be it for the strategy outline. I'll try to get out the other video on the full outline a little bit later. Thanks. Have a good day.